to share his thoughts on decolonizing the Indian mind, rethinking nation and nationalism for indigenous development.
So, good afternoon all. I know the post-lunch session used to call graveyard session for the seminars. It's very difficult to. Okay, thank you. Okay, it's fine. Huh? So again, thank you, sir. So it's good afternoon to everyone, and again I repeat myself that the post-lunch session is very difficult to wake up you, but I'll try to give you some insight about Indian culture, Indian society. But start with good afternoon, chair, my co-panelists, my esteemed colleagues, my dear students from my department, and the undergraduate student. As you know, this seminar is all about the nation vis-a-vis RASHTRA, rethinking notion of India or Bharat. I knew that from last 2 days, at least from last 20 hours, you had discussion about the RASHTRA, nation, nationalism. But my idea is a little bit different, not about the RASHTRA and nation, but about the first thing, we decolonize our mind to understand what is nation and what is nationalism. So thank you Abhishek ji for inviting me for this seminar. It's too late because till night I didn't know that I'm going to speak here. But we had a discussion few days back, but somehow this confusion amongst us. So now I'm here. So I try to give you a detailed idea about what is decolonization and firstly, what is colonization? So because understand before the nation and nationalism, it's most important to understand how we colonized ourselves. That means the relationship between the colonizers and the colonized. So the 4 points which I'm going to discuss here. The first point is the pre-colonial context of India subcontinent, British strategies for mental colonization, and the third and important point is mechanism of British control. So basically my whole argument based on these ideas, that means the British control over our minds, our ideas, and this is nothing new. But at least we should understand how they colonize our mind, how they colonize our nation within 50 years of time span. That means after 1804, everything compiled and composed by the Britishers. So this is my notion, and lastly, impact and the end to the conclude to our my remarks. So some of ideas how we maintain our mind decolonized. So this is the whole strategy and whole idea of my interaction. I'm not calling it talk, it's an interaction. So let's get started with the idea of how Britishers colonized us. These are the parameters. So everybody knows. I'm going to start with the one quotation. India has no sense of history. This is the most important rhetoric. This is the most important paraphrasing about the India in the Occident world, because they used to know us Orient and Occident and Orient. The 3 main propagators of this idea that Indian people had no sense of history. First is, everybody knows that Hegel, philosopher, because I'm surrounded by the Department of Philosophy and Sanskrit philosophers. So the first philosopher, that was the Hegel, and he coined these kind of idea but before Hegel, one important thing, Al-Biruni in 1930 to 1050, the Al-Biruni exactly propounded this idea that Indian has no sense of history, and adding up the fuel, Mr. Hegel indeed surfaced a Eurocentric approach about the India. And the third one, very brutal, it's Mr. James Smith or J.S. Smith. These two personalities who gave us this sense that Indian people had no sense of history, and basically they propounded four ideas about Max Muller, another philosopher or we call historian, philosopher, Max Muller propounded four basic ideas about the Indians. First is, ancient Indian lacked any sense of history, factors of time or chronology. So we did not have our history. What is he want to try? The second thing, Indians were accustomed to despotic rule, because he used Ashoka's and Chandragupta's idea and about the rule. So Indian people accustomed to despotic rule. This is the second proposition he propounded. The third is, Indian was so engrossed in the problems of spiritualism and paid least attention to the problem of this world, Elok, the concept of Elok and Parlok. So these are the basic contours, basic idea of Max Muller about the India, and we very profound about the Max Muller. The fourth one, Indian had neither experienced feeling of nationhood nor any kind of self-government. So these whole Indian history, whole Indian writing, based upon these four principal ideas. What do you call it? So this is the whole argument of my interaction with you people. So again, William Jones के बारे में हमने बात कर लिया है. So सारी चीजों को छोड़ते हुए मैं आता हूँ कि how they colonize our mind. There were pillars of domination of Britishers to India. There were so many pillars. I'm not going to talk each and every one, but when the Britishers came to India, because I'm modern Indian student also, so I'm teaching African history in the department. So there were the few basic pillars of British rule. Before we, through this we understand how they colonize our mind. The first pillar is the rhetoric of fair play. The rhetoric of fair play, that means the transcendental power. The transcendental power the Britishers had. So fair play, and in this fair play, court, law, modern law and modern code of conduct, etc. The second is non-interference of the religious social affairs of India. The second pillar, I'm not going to talk about all these because my idea is a little bit different for you people. The third one, improvement. And what kind of improvement? Sati, abolition of child marriage, etc. So all those ideas they propounded for the women, for the girls. What? By the male-dominated society. Because the four big swords of the British, चाहे वो जेम्स मिल हो या फिर वो मैल्कम हो, एल्फिंस्टन हो, they came from the Irish. They are not the British. They are the Irish people. And what we call, when the Britishers came to India, firstly they colonized Ireland and their women, and after they came to India. This is the idea why and how they came to India. So the fourth one, the conquest of knowledge, and this is the most appropriate idea to how they control India. The fifth thing, system of subsidiary, and this is the basic of history, and the divide and rule. So what they did, the whole idea, they changed the narratives of India. They create the culture of status. Our culture was the culture of status to culture of contract. That means I'm Manish Karmwar, and suppose that I'm not going to talk any other person, my student, because my students is what? Written through the board of research that Mr. Prasant, Mr. Abhinav is my student. So when I went for some interviews, I told Saeed Amin, sir, I'm a student. So, yes? No, you are not a PhD student. So this is the culture of status to culture of contract, whether the marriages, whether the birth certificate, death certificate, though in the modern world these are the very essential part, but they started the culture of status to culture of contract. This is the most important, and through this they did colonize India very well. For 15 minutes more, Vidna? Ma'am? Chalega, 15 minutes? Okay. So, because we 10-20% khatam hua, so itna to hona chahiye. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about the how they colonized us. What we call in historical sense or the sense of history of colonization, there were the 8 modalities. The most important, and listen carefully, it's not for teachers, it's for the students. I know you have feel sleepy, but think that how they colonized India. So this is the most important thing. This is nothing new, but I reframe or rephrase all those ideas. The first is historiographical model. Second one is observational model. Third one is survey. Fourth one is humanitarian. Fifth is linguistic. Sixth is museological. Seventh is surveillance. Eighth is anthropological. So, as they controlled India not only through the economy, the politics, beyond this, that means the cultural subjugation, that means the subjugation of the minds. This is the more fascinating rather than the others. As a normal student of history, we used to say that British came to India for or Portuguese came for the India for the cinnamon or the kali mirchi or dal ke liye aaye the. That was the absolute rubbish thing. That was the absolute rubbish thing. Why they came to India and how they came to India and how they conquered through India, it's only mind. So here I input the psychology of the people of India. Psychology, because before 1857, that was ratio 5:2. I think the ratio, Calcutta may out of 1,000 population, there were only 10 Britishers were there. So 10 Britishers, they control over the 10,000 people, and not through the economy, not through the political, it was a subjugation of the mind. So this is the most fascinating thing about the British, how they colonized us. We talk about the decolonization of mind. I know from last 2 days, people were talking about the decolonization of mind. But how they colonized, this is the most important thing. Okay, I think chair यही हो रहा होगा 2 दिनों से कि how we decolonize our mind, Mahabharata, Ramayana, etc. But here I'm trying to say why they colonize and how they colonize. Okay, so this is my input. So what they did to India, the first thing, they wrote voluminous. They wrote, so they translated and rewrite our books. Okay, like Idea of History, Alexander Doe used the Oriental despotism, James Duff. He wrote about the Maratha, and Maratha lost their history. You go and click what pronounced the James Duff. Elphinstone, if you go to the ancient institution, आप गूगल करो, एलिफिंस्टन का नाम आएगा. Okay, so we lost our smriti and shruti through this Elphinstone, and I know so many cinema halls named by Mr. Elphinstone. Mumbai, Patna, I know the few cinema halls, roads, Elphinstone एक गाना भी था, उसमें Elphinstone Road मुंबई में आता है. So we I'm not very fond about the changing of the road and etc. But how they colonized us, this is the most important thing. The changing of road, it is not religious. It's what? Decolonize of mind. So in other perspective, we can think about this. Like James Todd, ये थे, उन्होंने राजपूत्स के बारे में हिस्ट्री लिखी, हिस्ट्री ऑफ राजपूत, and he changed the narrative how people look towards the Rajputs. Or why? Because any movie, how portray the Thakus? Horseman, दो तरफ उसके guards रहेंगे, cruel. So how they portray the whole concept of Rajput? Why? Because Mr. James Todd wrote about the Rajput and he became the phenomenal about the Rajput writings. Robert Oram, James Cunningham about the Sikh. He changed whole narrative about the Sikhs. And India में martial race कौन था? Rajput Sikhs. And what about the other races? क्या वो martial race नहीं थे? क्या वो martial race नहीं थे? So how they change the mindset of India, this is the most important thing. So this is how we call the historiographical model. So counterpart of all these things, we can reproduce our history. This is nothing bad to go to the Vedas and find out relevant thing. It's not the learning and churning of Veda is important, but how we find important thing from the Vedas. So this is the most important thing. I know Vedas. I'm trying to inculcate. When I came to this college, it's surrounded by so many good buildings and ideas. So I like this idea. तभी आप अपने past को अच्छे ढंग से जान पाओगे. So know Vedas, but how to solve the contemporary problem. This is the most important. The second thing, observational modalities. Why British travel in India? They are very prolific travelers. Why? Because they wanted to know India. They wanted to know architecture and ruins of India, to know their past, know their idea, how we use this material. And they used all those materials and they did in their own colonial world, like in the South Africa also. If you go South Africa, you found so many structures just like Indian structure. So why they are prolific traveler? Because they wanted to know India, the idea of experience and the man on the spot. The Britishers, the most important thing what? The Britishers were the man on the spot. That means जहाँ जरूरत है वहाँ पे वो रहेंगे. That's why they colonized the Indian people. The second thing, the third thing about the Britishers, about the survey modalities. Before Britishers came to India, we are not too much focused upon the map, cartography, flora and fauna. All they are in our ancient books, but they used to control our mindset. Like soil, minerals, forest, they did everything. They did survey for each and everything to control their minds, not to give something to us. The second and the most important thing, enumerative modalities, number game. This comes the number games, okay? Number one, India in the peace index or indices 130. This indices 120. This is the fake indices that was created by the Eurocentric approach, because the Switzerland is the most happiest country and most persons reside in Switzerland. I may be wrong quote this country, but the same country is most happiest and same country is like suicidal tendency more in the same country. How a country become prosperous, people are suicidal tendency. So the important thing, we do not believe the Eurocentric indices. That means index, peace index. Because they are creating those index under their supervision. Every time they send two questionnaires to the professors of different college and university, and they did fill the form, and through those forms they create an aura that look, these are the indices or aap kahan. Because I am teaching Africa. So African country also, they are not much below to the India. There are 158th rank, 168th rank. So with my co-colleagues in my department, I find out, and really, but we did not have such data. We had data for the elections report, but still we did not have data for so many things. So we established a data center, and the most important thing, do you believe that Delhi University still not having Bloomberg Center, whole Delhi University to calculate or to conduct survey on data. Few fellow are from the commerce, also my students are also from commerce here. So how come we decipher these new kind of indices? So this is how we decolonize our mind to self-interpretate our rationale. Because family values, number of children, these are not in their terms of the Eurocentric approach. But in our approach, like Indocentric approach, we are having more attachment for the family system, for the peers, etc. So we can change, and we will change how we look the indices. This is the most important thing. And few things are also, one Mr. Ridgely, everybody knows about this name, anthropological modalities. So Ridgely wrote People of India project, and he wrote voluminous. जाइए आपको मिलेगा ICHR में, पढ़िए, उन्होंने इंडिया के एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकल स्ट्रक्चर पे काम किया है. So what they did, religious, sociological, anthropological, every way they wanted to control our lives. So this is what called the colonization of our mind system. Another linguistic, grammar, classification, language, and this new national education policy did the good thing that through national education policy we are going to decolonize our mind, though language is most important part and parcel, and language is a communication. For my knowledge, जो भाषा होती है वो एक माध्यम का काम करती है. भाषा कभी भी इन्फिनिटी और लाइक उच्चता और निम्नता का स्तर नहीं होना चाहिए. More important thing is how you understand the nation. This is the most important thing. So these are the few ideas about how they colonize the mind. Okay. So one or two more thing after I'll give you some idea about how we decolonize the mind. Okay. So just the two or three things. One book written by I think John Orwell, or I'm just forgetting the name of that writer. How to connect to the native people, how to connect to आप अपने native से Indian से कैसे connect करोगे. He wrote about the 40-page dossier. वहाँ पे क्या था? Suppose that in the British language, please, kindly, we use very much. They kindly pass this plate, I'm going to have lunch. But that book, how to interact with the Indian people, native, so plate. The plate means whether you give the plate or take away plate. So no need to interact the people of India more, otherwise you become corrupt in this sense. So these are the idea, because and this is the very few ideas. I have so many things to say, but I know the time constant here because my two fellow panelists are here and they are having very good idea about all these things, because they are both are from Sanskrit and our chair is from philosophy. So give me 2 minutes more to how we decolonize, because my so many PhD students are here. Sir, आपने बोल तो दिया colonized कैसे किया, लेकिन decolonize के बारे में भी कुछ बोलिए. So the 20th century is the world of decolonization, and 21st century definitely is going to be how decolonize our mind. एक पोएट ने कहा था, पोएट का नाम भूल जाता हूँ, निकाल लाया हूँ इस पिंजरे से परिंदा, अब इस परिंदे के दिल से पिंजरा निकालना है. This is what, and this is not mine, this is one of my student. Abhas is given to me कि सर या बोलिएगा आज. So निकाल लाया हूँ एक पिंजरे से परिंदा, अब इस परिंदे के दिल से पिंजरा निकालना है. This is not that we are away from. मैं जा रहा हूँ बस 2 मिनट, दिस इज द साइन टू सर हो गया, काफी, अब आप जाइए. So just two or three things more I want to include. Just like we had a huge library, just like your library, but the library was closed for a long time and we used to visit another library. Decolonization of mind is now we wake up, we go to the library, open that center and Bhuvan ji ko boliye ki start cleaning and dust from the books we got clean the book and I am here and we are arrived. So library बंद है, so इसका मतलब आपका दिमाग बंद नहीं है. So maybe I'm not rephrasing well because the huge clap from last bench. So ये है कि लाइब्रेरी में बुक है, इससे कुछ नहीं होता है. उस बुक को आपको दिमाग तक जाना चाहिए. अ वेरी प्रोफाउंड स्कॉलर, एक बहुत अच्छे स्कॉलर थे जो चाहे वो उन्होंने क्या बोला था, the history is not only the production of knowledge, it's a communication of knowledge, but not only communication of knowledge, this is the teaching of knowledge also. Because suppose that I'm producing a scopus writing, these days people are used to say scopus and peer review, so we are producing so many peer reviews and scopus for our promotions, but if it's stuck in our mind, we are not communicated to our students well or teach well, so this is again we are into the colonization. So through the colonization of mind, we have to impart our knowledge to the others. I have so many things to say because I'm away from my graduate college from since long, so I'm not a good lecture in front of audience, but thank you very much. And Dr. Abhishek giving me this opportunity, I'm really thankful. And for this college is just like a homecoming because I know so many people from this college. Many of them is not here. I see left the college also. Philosophy kabhi many and so thank you very much having me for this college as a speaker. And I love to come and speak as usual, as every teacher does every time. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.